Hello and welcome to today's whistle-stop tour of Kairos. We're going to concentrate today on the forecast model because that's where we see the most power in the system. Underneath here are all the fully forecasted commodities, about 60. Welcome to the Kairos triangle, shown for every commodity. If we start at the top here, the macroeconomy, Kairos used the Purchasing Managers Index to track the global economy. Short-term and long-term is the technical analysis, which uses established models to predict turning points in markets. This bottom section is fundamental analysis, with the usual culprits of cost drivers, inventory, supply and demand. Market Watch is a catch-all for things pertinent to that commodity. S/D balance tells you which of supply and demand is winning, whilst the regression section summarises all of the fundamental elements. It's very much the IP of Kairos, and it basically takes all of these individual elements, weights them and puts them into a model that's made up of 140 different elements to create an econometric model that has been tried and tested over 20 years. We're now going to go into the long-term section, which forecasts between 1 and 3 years ahead. You see here the miniature of the triangle, and this red arrow says that this element means that there's a price pressure upwards at the moment. You can change the scale of this graph by moving this button at the bottom, and if we move to the targets and hover over them, you can see what the Kairos is predicting the markets do. So here on target 4, it's predicting wheat to go from 230 to 260 euros per tonne in Q4 2018. We're going to take a screenshot of that and show you how these two models underneath work. When RSI is at around 20, it's a precursor for markets turning upwards, as shown by this blue line. In terms of the MACD, when the solid line crosses over the dotted line, that's confirmation that we have an uptrend. Similarly, when RSI is at or around 80, this will be a precursor for markets turning downwards. And when the solid line crosses below the dotted line on MACD, this is confirmation that we're in a downtrend. This is a short-term section, which is structured exactly the same as long-term, but only up to 1 year ahead. This element is red, meaning there's a price pressure up. We're just going to show you these buttons on this graph. So you can expand the graph by pressing this button. You can download it to a PNG file, or indeed add it to a report. If we go down, you find the hedging barometer from Kairos. If the arrow points to terminate, we are in a confirmed downtrend, and you should get out of any hedges. In terms of avoid, the market is about to turn downwards and you should basically do nothing. In terms of consider, you should make preparations for the hedge because an upturn is coming. And to initiate, that means that you should do the hedge because the market is in confirmed uptrend. We're now going to look at the supply element within the fundamental analysis by clicking on it in the main overview triangle. This element is green, meaning there's a price pressure downwards. And we're just going to open up this first graph to show you simply why that's the case. So you can see in terms of the two bars between 16 and 17, they're rising, hence supply is increasing, and there'll be a downward pressure on price. There's lots of pertinent information underneath that first graph and a conclusion at the bottom. Now looking at the demand section, this element is red, meaning price pressure upwards. And again, we're going to blow this graph up, and you can see between 16 and 17 the bars are growing, hence price pressure upwards. And again, there's a huge amount of pertinent information underneath that top graph and the conclusion at the bottom. So, supply is green, demand is red. Which one is winning? Well, supply-demand balance says that demand is winning. I'm just going to illustrate that by, again, blowing up this top graph. These bars show supply as a percentage of demand. So when these bars are going down, the supply surplus is diminishing. Hence, there's an upward pressure on price at this moment in time. So we're just going to put the bottom graph in this section, and you can see, with the moving average off, the orange line is supply-demand balance, and the black line is wheat price. And you can see it's a beautiful inverse relationship, showing that supply-demand balance is a very important factor in this case. So we go back to the main overview triangle and we're going to have a look at inventory. So you'll see when we click on that this element is green, as in price pressure downwards at the moment. And that's just indicated on this first graph by this rising orange line. We're going to go down to the bottom graph. It's similar to supply versus demand. It's an important factor again. So we'll just blow this bottom graph up, take off the moving average. Wheat price again is black, and inventory is red. And again, it's a good inverse relationship. So when the inventory rises, then the price does in fact reduce, as you would expect. So let's now look at the cost drivers element. This is currently green, again means price pressure down at the moment. Kairos creates a cost model as illustrated by this pie chart here of all the elements. And this culminates in the creation of the theoretical profit graph. So the orange line there is a theoretical profit line, and the grey shaded area is the traditional reasonable profit. So when the profit goes above that grey area, then clearly this will create a price pressure downwards and vice versa. So now we go to Market Watch, which if you remember is for elements that are specifically pertinent to wheat. This element is red at the moment, showing a price pressure upwards. We're going to show you a couple of elements in this area, the first one being seasonality. So let's blow that up. The important thing here is that the statistical significance is high. The orange line on there is the average graph over many years of what wheat does in a typical year. And so the price of wheat does follow that quite significantly. Between April and June, for example, it drops by about 4%, and then June to August it increases again by about the same amount. So the second element we're going to take a look at is the action of speculators in this market, which can be very important. The orange area there is the net positions of speculators. Below zero mean that they're short, and they're actually at record historical short positions, expecting the price to drop. However, that short position has been diminishing, and if the price of wheat does in fact increase, it could create a stampede which magnifies the price further. Last but not least, we're going to take a look at regression, which, if you remember, summarises all the fundamental elements and is very much the unique part of the Kairos system. Currently, the price pressure is red, meaning price upwards. So if we just blow the model up, let me explain what the lines mean. The orange line is the expected price of wheat from the model, and the grey area is the margin of error. This is not a precise science. Finally, the black line there is the price of wheat. When the price of wheat goes above that grey area, we call these price bubbles, and conversely, when below, we call them price anti-bubbles. But what will always happen over time is that the price will try and get back towards the equivalent price. Sometimes it will overshoot, but it will always try and get back. Currently, not only is the price below the grey area, but the equivalent price is also rising, so you do have a double whammy effect. The regression model is used to form the targets that you see in the long-term and short-term forecasts. We've covered a lot of ground in a short space of time today, but we hope that this has whetted your appetite sufficiently for you to do a 90-minute full demo of the system with you.